Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today it's with great honor that I present the semifinals for the fall 2016 season of Sam Mann's Black Crusade, his online Conquest LCG competitive league. Up top we've got our Necrons faction, and down south we've got Packmaster Kith representing the Dark Eldar. Both of our players are deciding whether or not they want to retain their opening hands. To the north, we've got the Eigen Sheep, and down south, we've got Asbo 1980. Assessing our opening layout of planets here, planet number 1 is going to be Planum, the relocate a unit planet, and it looks like the first 5 planets all have blue technology icons, so perhaps this is going to be my reprieve from 90 to 120-minute games of Conquest. But let's see how things go. Both of our players have decided to mulligan their opening hands. Dark Eldar has initiative, and let's see what is in the Chimera token generating Packmaster Kith's hand. She's got a Kith's Chimera Master for early game econ, generate a Chimera token. She's allied with Chaos, which is very interesting. Promise of Glory to get out demons like this Venomous Fiend to deal damage to enemy army units at its planet when it moves. Chaos Fanatics and Incubus Warrior for early game command icons. Corrupted Teleportarium will move the Venomous Fiend from planet to planet, in addition to its picking up the mobile keyword, so that could be moving all over the place and really enable an incredible economy lead for Kith, because the Corrupted Teleportarium is going to be able to move that Venomous Fiend from any planet to any planet. But to the top of our screen, after a Promise of Glory played by Kith, we've got an STC fragment that's going to decrease the cost required of elites by Anrakyr, who has his enslavement dial set for, I'm not sure if it's Astra Militarum or if he has forgotten to set his enslavement dial. I think maybe he's forgotten to set the dial, but hopefully, okay, yeah, Eigen Sheep calls out, sorry, I forgot to set my dial, and that's kind of honestly pretty shitty because Kith has shown that she's clearly allied with Chaos, but regardless, Anrakyr, he's got a copy of Promotion, which could go on a Void Pirate to trump a Chaos Fanatic or an Incubus Warriors. Looks like the Prideful Eldars are going to be his option, although I think Eldar is plural. Anyways, point being, he's got Wild Rider Viper, which he could drop out for 3, courtesy of STC Fragment, and that's going to be able to hit Kith for 5, although it's going to be targetable by Klavex War Leader. There's no backlash in sight for either of our elite players. Warlock Destructor for Anrakyr matches his chosen Eldar faction as well, and then a copy of Pyrian Eternals, which is currently a 2-cost 1/1 with 1 command icon. Another really early game econ option here is going to be the same Han Kinsman, but let's see what Kith is doing. Kith has dropped a copy of Chaos Fanatics, a 1/2 at Aatrox Prime. Anrakyr is going to be able to kill that in a single hit unless Kith shields it. Kith currently doesn't possess any shields whatsoever, and I can only imagine that we might end up seeing something reasonably nasty played by Kith, maybe this Venomous Fiend to planet number 2, because what could happen here is if Kith plays the Fiend, she could win command at that planet. I don't think Anrakyr is going to show up opposite a 3/5, and if the Venomous Fiend needs to move to planet number 1, then it can deal damage equal to an enemy army unit's command icons. If Planum moves the Venomous Fiend, it'll deal damage again. And like I said before, Kith doesn't have the Corrupted Teleportarium, but that's yet another movement effect. So Kith, with initiative, has got to be feeling pretty good about planet number 1 and our little distribution of planets here. Also worth considering is planet number 5 is going to be Karnath, the planet which allows you to trigger the battle ability of any other planet, which probably isn't going to be Planum, because that's on the way out right quickly, but it could be Aatrox Prime, and it could be Elowith as well. I guess because Kith has got that promise of glory, yeah, she drops off an Incubus Warrior. We could have seen Corrupted Teleportarium, but Kith, down to 3 resources, still has these tokens, which basically count for 5, and that could be the Venomous Fiend. So it looks like Venomous Fiend might end up getting dumped to planet number 2, as a 3/5 that can deal a point of damage to the Warlock Destructor and swing first. Maybe we'll see it alone try to take on the Destructor. Maybe Kith is going to assist that unit, and perhaps not. Kith might end up being incentivized to try to head to Karnath or Iridial to potentially heal her elite. But let's kind of see what happens here. So the Venomous Fiend comes out, the 2 Cultist tokens are gone, we've got a Void Pirate at 4, opposite the Incubus Warrior, with 2 command icons, but there's also that copy of Promotion, which could allow the Void Pirate to beat the Incubus Warrior. Things are getting very interesting as we see the Wild Rider Viper put out to planet number 2. All mobile movement is going to be done simultaneously. So I think the way that this works is that the Wild Rider Viper will be eligible if the Viper and the Venomous Fiend both move to planet number 1. I think that the Fiend is still going to be able to hit the Viper with its reaction there. I apologize for not knowing, but hopefully our players are privy as to whether or not that's the case. Both individuals have passed. And where are we going to see our players go? Anrakyr is a 2/7. Kith is, of course, a 2/6. She's going to generate a 2/1. Kith is going to be rather incentivized to go to planet number 1 to maintain initiative. She'll generate that token. Anrakyr, if he goes to planet number 1, that's going to be a 5/4, a 3/4, and a 2/7, all at the same planet. And I'm frankly not sure that Kith is going to be able to overwhelm that much firepower. The way that things are currently looking, because we didn't see that promotion, is it's going to be Kith getting 2 cards and 1 resource, and that's not going to be anywhere near enough for a Clavex War Leader. I guess if Kith goes to planet number 1 and Anrakyr goes to planet number 1, then Anrakyr. Alright, looks like Kith goes to 2, and I guess let's just resolve our command struggles. So Kith has abandoned Planum, trying to get rid of the investment of that Warlock Destructor, and let's see how that works out for Asbo. So Kith generates a Chimera token at planet number 2, and that is going to be, let's see, what is the command? So for our Eldar player, it's going to be just 1 card and 1 resource. That really hurts. He did get a copy of a 2 shield card, Mechanical Enhancement, to increase the HP of Necron units, but at the moment, probably going to be used as a 2 shielder, owing to the fact that he's using so many allied units. Kith asks, is it okay to take? I would assume yes, because the Necron player can't actually include Eldar events like Superiority in his deck. Kith gets 4 cards and 1 resource. Wow, Kith got 2 shield cards and an Archon's Terror, but alas, does not have an adequate number of resources with which to fund said card effect. We're going to see battles on planets number 1 and 2. The Warlock Destructor is going to be able to be moved from planet number 1 to planet number 2 because Anrakyr is going to be able to win that, no contest. We did not see any mobile being done, so I suppose for the moment my Wild Rider Viper question is going to go unanswered. I'll have to do a little cursory card game DB search after the conclusion of today's match. But Anrakyr captures the planet. Congratulations to Eigensheep for being 1 tech icon and 1 green strongpoint icon closer to possible victory. And now it's going to be Packmaster Kith at planet number 2, whom is attempting to leverage some sort of economic stranglehold upon our Eldar player. So, nowhere near enough resources for Archon's Terror or Klavex Warleader, no backlash in sight regardless. Our Necron has a 2 shield and a 1 shield card, and Kith has got 2 shields and 2 1 shields. We could see the Venomous Fiend try to kill the Wild Rider Viper, but it looks like probably wisely the Chimera token, which would normally be easily dispatched, is going to be attempting to finish off the Viper. So the Viper is now at risk of being killed by the Venomous Fiend, but we've got a 2 shield card that will mean it survives. But if the Fiend and Kith all pour their attacks into the Wild Rider Viper, then it is going to eventually be destroyed, because 3 minus 2 is 1, and 2 minus 1 is going to be a total of 2, and that means 4, and that means a dead Wild Rider Viper. The Warlock Destructor is granted going to be able to remain at that planet, but Kith has got a sufficient number of shields to be able to survive. A fair bit of brutalization from that unit, and even if both of these, okay, they're not deciding to go for the Warlord, but this is going to force a shield. Venomous Fiend, are we going to see? Alright, we do see a copy of Raid, and I suppose because our players are tied at the number of resources they have, I didn't bother to calculate that. If Eigen would have had 1 additional resource, Asbo could have stolen it because he's yet to play a limited card, and then he could have used Archon's Terror on the Warlock Destructor. But looks like instead that is not the case. Raid is discarded, the Venomous Fiend is preserved. It's got 2 points of damage upon it, and now I imagine we're going to be seeing that Wild Rider Viper cleared out. That'll bring us to the end of a combat round. The Warlock Destructor could fail to destroy the Venomous Fiend, and then this is kind of an interesting situation here for Kith. So let's say all these units attack, they together end up destroying the Wild Rider Viper, and we'll have to see what our Necron player decides to use for shields. The Warlock Destructor could try to kill the Venomous Fiend. We'll see another 2 shield value card discarded. It'll be at 1 HP, and then Kith can either stay at the planet with her Chimera, or she can keep her Venomous Fiend there. But because the Venomous Fiend deals damage when it moves, maybe at the end of the first combat round you retreat with the Fiend just so it follows your Warlord the following combat round to deal damage to an enemy army unit equal to its command icons, and then mobiles, and then you could use Corrupted Teleportarium. So there's certainly a whole lot of different effects here, but we've got the Venomous Fiend indicating that the Wild Rider Viper is indeed going to be its target. And let's see if we see that shield or not. What is it going to be, my dear Necron? Okay, looks like Mechanical Enhancement is indeed going to be pitched as a shield, so the Wild Rider Viper is now sitting pretty at just 1 HP, and this is going to be an opportunity for the Warlock Destructor to attempt to expunge the Venomous Fiend here from the presence of the Traxxas sector. So Dark Eldar are already somewhat under the influence of Chaos, I guess, given their predilection to worship the final Chaos God Slanesh. There we go. That's going to be the raid preventing the Warlock Destructor from being able to destroy the Fiend, and now that means that we're going to see Packmaster Kith manage to successfully kill the Wild Rider Viper. So, what I think is going well for Anrakyr during this match is that he's already got a copy of the STC fragment out, so any subsequent elites are going to be cheap. But Anrakyr's signature army unit at the moment is pretty weak. He's already lost a very powerful card. Kith's Venomous Fiend is likely going to survive, and because of Iridial, because of Karnath, it's entirely possible that Kith is going to end up healing away any damage either to herself, dealt by the Warlock Destructor, or dealt to this Venomous Fiend. And I've certainly seen a great many matches during which Kith ends up being bloodied and does just fine, and because she's already become advantaged with such a formidable economy, drawing 4 cards and a resource, winning command at I think 3 different planets relative to Anrakyr's 1, things could go pretty poorly pretty quickly for our poor Eigen, who has the audacity to play as the Necrons. Venomous Fiend retreats, and now it's going to be up to Eigen. Is he going to keep his Warlock Destructor at the planet, or is he going to turn tail and run? No matter what, when the deploy phase of the following round begins, we'll have to pay an additional 1 resource for this Warlock or otherwise get rid of it, and resources are going to be a pretty scarce commodity for either of our players. Note that we've only got a couple of planets on the board remaining with 2, with resource bonuses at all. We'll have to see what this next planet in line is going to be, but if it's another resource-light planet, then I guess this STC fragment is going to be absolutely invaluable, and it'll be all the more important for Kith to pursue these resource-heavy planets. Asbo indicates that he's going to be staying at the planet. The Chimera token is going to be attacking for 2. And if we want, this promotion is going to mean that the Warlock Destructor survives until the end of the first combat round, but all this Warlock Destructor is going to be able to do is retreat with 3 points of damage, or kill a Chimera token, or deal 2 to 3 points of damage to Packmaster Kith. So let's see if it's worth it for Anrakyr, because he takes 2 points of damage from the Destructor. It's going to be the Chimera token as his chosen target, so there's no Agonizer of Bren to discard as a triple shield card. Packmaster Kith is maybe going to deliver the killing blow to the Warlock Destructor, and that is going to afford her the opportunity to look at the top 3 cards of her deck for any 1 card she would like, add that dirty business to her hand, and then go about her Dark Eldar way. And if it just so happens that that's a card like Gut and Pillage to fund all sorts of Dark Eldar ridiculousness, then that is going to potentially spell disaster for poor Anrakyr. Kith takes a swing. That's going to be 2 points of damage to the Warlock Destructor. Are we going to see a copy of Promotion used to shield that unit to let it remain in place so that it can retreat? Paying an additional 1 resource to keep a 3/1 in play, I'm not sure if that's much of a bargain. I personally would probably hold on to the promotion, but Eigensheep and I are distinctly separate individuals, so let's see what exactly good old Anrakyr the Traveler does decide to do. Worth mentioning is, as a deploy action, he can deploy the topmost unit card in a target discard pile, so if the Warlock Destructor dies, that's still going to be an opportunity for him to play that unit. Maybe his thought process here is he wants to use STC. Okay, no, I guess actually he did move his shield card to the table, and then he rescinded upon that. I was going to say the following round he could have used Anrakyr plus STC fragment to get that Wild Rider Viper back into play, but instead it looks like he's going to be funding the Warlock Destructor again, at least presumably. So, Packmaster Kith, I don't believe, has a topmost unit card in her discard pile, right? So that's going to be Kith looking at the top 3 cards of her deck. Let's see what Asbo 1980 retrieves, and then we're going to be doing our HQ phase. She ends up getting what? It is sitting on the table. The 2 remaining cards are on the bottom of the deck. It's going to be a second copy of the Chimera Masters, so resources are scarce, and I can hardly think of a better bargain than these Kith's Chimera Masters. They don't exactly pass the vanilla test until you consider that they allow you to put another unit into play. We've got a second copy of Venomous Fiend, which could enable all sorts of shenaniganry. Anrakyr here looks like he's taking maybe a note out of one of the previous Anrakyr players' game book that I've featured before in a video, because we've got Shrieking Exarch, incredibly powerful card, but we've gone through an HQ phase, 4 resources, 2 cards for each player. New planet is going to be Ossus 4, and that's very important because note that it is a 2 resource planet. So Warlock Destructor is going to be moved to the table. Anrakyr is going to put that into play for the cost of 2. We've now got 2 copies of Pyrian Eternals in hand, not discard. And what's kind of crappy about that is until you get additional copies of the Eternals in a discard pile, in your discard pile, they're, just soft little 1 command icon 1/1s for the cost of 2, not worth it at all, but at least during combat, if you kill one of them, then the other one, or ones, become stronger. We've got enough resources for Eigen Sheep to put out that Shrieking Exarch. We see the Corrupted Teleportarium interplay for Packmaster Kith, and what's cool about the Corrupted Teleportarium here is it can be used, well, I guess it could be used during deploy, but you move an elite unit you control from a blue planet to another planet. The Venomous Fiend here is not at a planet at present, therefore it's not going to be able to warp to Iridial and threaten a point of damage to the Void Pirate. And it looks like poor Anrakyr is going to be fresh out of shields now that he's promoted this Void Pirate at 3. Maybe that's going to be bait for Packmaster Kith so that Anrakyr can go to Planet 5 and just collect some additional resources, but we'll kind of have to see what exactly he's going to decide to do. I think Asbo is definitely going to want to lock down Ossus 4 just because he's got a couple of copies of Clavak's War Leader in hand. It costs 4. It's not an elite. That is ridiculously expensive despite how powerful that card is. And then he's also got another copy of a Venomous Fiend in hand. We see Kith's Chimera Masters, and where are they going to go? The earliest victory condition planet for Eigen is going to be our current planet number 2. The Chimera Masters splash down at planet number 5, and they're actually going to be a little bit difficult for Anrakyr to remove if he shows up alone. Anrakyr, I guess some of this depends on whether or not Asbo draws another 2 shield value card, because if Anrakyr swings and doesn't end up managing to kill something, then that's going to be a little bit difficult for him to face down a bunch of damage. And if Kith were to show up, well, I guess the Venomous Fiend, once Anrakyr is exhausted, could move from a blue planet to that planet and swing for 3, even though it's just got 1 HP remaining. But something interesting here is happening at planet number 2, the earliest possible victory condition planet for Anrakyr. Perhaps he's just trying to bum rush Packmaster Kith so that he doesn't end up losing a slow, drug-out brawl of an exhausting game. He's got the Shrieking Exarch at 2, thanks to the cost reduction of the STC fragments. So for the modified cost of 3, it's a 2 command icon 4/6, but he had to discard cards as an additional cost to put it into play. That was both of those copies of Pyrian Eternals. Any subsequent copies are therefore going to be 2-cost 3/3s with a command icon. Cool thing about the Exarch is whenever an army unit on either player's side is destroyed at its planet, you draw a card and deal a damage to a target enemy unit, which could be the Warlord, it could be a token. So if the Exarch takes a swing and kills the Chimera Masters here on initiative, it'll draw a card, it'll deal a point of damage to maybe that Chimera token, or maybe the Chimera token here at planet number 5. Eigen Sheep passes, and now Asbo's got no resources. And let's see what exactly he ends up doing. So, Kith is currently positioned to win command on only 2 planets, and the same can be said for Anrakyr. Kith drops a promotion. Is it going to be on this Incubus Warrior, or what? No, the promotion is going to be on the Warlock Destructor at planet number 1. So that must mean Kith is going to be sending herself to planet 2, or she's going to be showing up to planet number 1. Athael calls out that DE are perverse. I believe he's the player that's going to be playing whomever wins this match and advances to the Black Crusade Fall 2016 finals. And the reason for this promotion on the Warlock Destructor is because the Venomous Fiend, maybe Kith is going to be showing up at planet number 2, and that'll be 2 points of damage dealt directly to the Shrieking Exarch unless we see Backlash. And then it can mobile from 1 to planet number 1 and deal 3 points of damage directly to the Warlock Destructor. Alternatively, we could see Kith show up at planet number 1, that's 3 points of damage to the Warlock Destructor. Kith steals initiative, she swings, kills the Warlock Destructor because we're not currently seeing any shields at all, or a Chimera token does the action I just described, and then the Venomous Fiend moves from planet 1 to planet 2 and deals damage directly to the Shrieking Exarch. So, very powerful effect there, and I suppose it's even possible that we could see the Corrupted Teleportarium move the Venomous Fiend again from planet 2 to planet number 3, if just opportunistically advisable, just to kill this Void Pirate. So both of our players are thinking where exactly they want to go. I would predict planet number 1 for Packmaster Kith. Very cool, very devious play here, dropping a limited card on the opponent's unit. Really kind of speaks, I think, to Asbo's skill as a player running these Venomous Fiends. Kith ends up going to planet number 1. Anrakyr goes to planet number 2, so Anrakyr is going to be retaining initiative, and that means that Shrieking Exarch is going to be a pretty nasty unit. This means Kith is going to end up winning enough resources with which to use Archon's Terror, which is very interesting. And Eigensheep is only going to have an opportunity to draw 2 cards, and he will get 1 resource. But unless it's like a card, unless he draws Backlash and has that resource to play it, then we could see Archon's Terror remove the Shrieking Exarch from this planet, and then Kith could harass Anrakyr to the point where he's forced to leave, and the Shrieking Exarch will not have an opportunity to trigger its ability. But let's see what happens. Anrakyr gets to draw 2... he's got a copy of Void Pirate, which I forgot about the card bonus. So, Anrakyr gets 3 cards, just 1 resource. He gets things woefully irrelevant to combat, just a bunch of economy units. And then Asbo instead is asking if he gets to collect his resources, and he is going to get a total of 2 cards and 2 resources. So it's just a Rogue Trader, just an Incubus Warrior, nothing terribly relevant to our upcoming impending combat, but we did happen to come across the resources required to play this Archon's Terror, and it's totally possible that Shrieking Exarch is going to be removed. So, at the beginning of combat, the Venomous Fiend mobiles from 1 to 2, that's 2 points of damage to the Shrieking Exarch despite its possessing initiative. The Venomous Fiend is exhausted, but it's already dealt enough damage to the Warlock Destructor to make a big bit of difference. Something interesting here is that Kith is presumably going to be able to clear out that, there are no shields, so Kith, the Chimera token, is going to be able to kill the Warlock Destructor. That gives Kith another opportunity to search the top 3 cards of her deck for any one card that she would like. Maybe it's going to be a high-value shield card, and if that's the case, then maybe the Venomous Fiend can stick around to assist in kind of knocking Anrakyr away from this planet. So that Warlock Destructor has died for the 2nd time, and now let's see what happens. It's Kith's opportunity right now to retrieve a card of her choice. She's going to be able to get a blue icon, so if Kith wins any 3 of the next, any 2 of the next 3 planets, then that is going to be the game for her. And now all she really needs to do is make absolute certain that this Shrieking Exarch does not have an opportunity to just totally rain on her parade and deal an absurd amount of damage. So I would imagine that we're going to be seeing Archon's Terror attempt to remove it from the planet, because it could cause some sort of death cascade. Like, let's say Kith didn't have any shields whatsoever, the Exarch could have attacked, could have killed the Chimera Masters, it could have drawn a card, dealt a point of damage to a target enemy unit like the Venomous Fiend. That would have died. It would have resulted in Anrakyr drawing a card, pinging something like the Incubus Warrior, and it could have stopped there, and then that would have just been the Chaos Fanatics and the Chimera token. Interestingly enough, the Corrupted Teleportarium is going to allow the Venomous Fiend to move from planet 2 to planet number 3. That's going to be a point of damage dealt to that Void Pirate, and that Void Pirate is going to be outright annihilated. So very nice play on part of Packmaster Kith, and now I can only imagine that we are indeed going to be seeing a Backlash remove the Shrieking Exarch, and then it's going to be up to these remaining units to try to banish Anrakyr from Planet 2. A Bloodied Reavers is what we ended up drawing from Eloith, and I'll be curious as to what, well, I'll never know, but I'm curious what Kith's other options were. Bloodied Reavers is going to let Kith on initiative do some considerable damage from Aatrox Prime directed at whatever opposes her. Anrakyr the Traveler takes a swing, manages to kill that Chimera token, and now it's just going to be these two Chaos Fanatics at that planet fighting Anrakyr. So interesting that we did see this Venomous Fiend moved, just because now there's not a whole lot left to fight Anrakyr. There's just 2 1 attack value units. There are no shields for Kith, so she's not going to be able to do much to Anrakyr, but he doesn't have any shields, so that's going to be 2 points of damage to him. If both of our players stay at this planet as long as possible, that's going to be another point of damage dealt to Anrakyr, so he's going to be down to 4 HP, but he will win this planet, and he'll have an opportunity to ping probably the adjacent planet here, which would kill the Venomous Fiend and the Incubus Warrior. So things are looking good for Packmaster Kith, but by no means are they great. Anrakyr takes 2 points of damage. Eigensheep indicates that he's going to stay. And now, are we going to be seeing these units retreat or stay? Packmaster Kith is in a bit of a difficult situation. She's at risk of losing everything currently positioned at planet number 2 because of Aatrox Prime's bombardment effect. And I guess if the Venomous Fiend would have stayed, this Void Pirate would, of course, still have been alive, but the Venomous Fiend would have been killed instead of maybe the Chimera token. Maybe Anrakyr would have had some additional damage, but anyways, these units both retreat, Aatrox Prime triggers, and planet number 2 is going to be totally wiped out, and that was a bit of a reset, and now it's just going to be Kith favorably positioned at planet 4, soon to be planet 4. But we're about to go through an HQ phase. Let's see what we get. 2 cards, 4 resources for each player. Is Anrakyr still in this game? The Shrieking Exarch is absolutely terrifying to Kith, I can only imagine. So she's really got to get rid of that. And wow, wouldn't you know it, it's going to be another copy of Shrieking Exarch. And this could be utterly disastrous for Packmaster Kith. Note that Anrakyr his topmost unit is a Void Pirate, not a Warlock Destructor, and then it's just going to be, well, I guess he can't do that for himself. For Kith, the Incubus Warrior is going to be her topmost unit card. We're still waiting on our enslavement dial, so maybe the enslavement dial is remaining the same. Maybe Eigensheep has forgotten to set his dial. Not that I'm suggesting Eigensheep is like a kind of sneaky or underhanded player, but I could easily see in an Octagon environment trying to get as much information as possible from one's opponent prior to saying, oh, I forgot to set my dial. Like, you could set it to Eldar or Dark Eldar or just whatever it happens to be, Chaos. A lot of different options there. Kith has got 2 resources, which means, well, 2 resources after playing a Bloodied Reaver, one of those Warlord friend units that I've actually not seen in quite a long time. It'll get +2 attack while at the same planet as a Warlord. Kith has currently got initiative, so it could attack for 4, but unfortunately for Kith, Shrieking Exarch has 6 HP. We see a Warriors of Gidrim and a Rogue Trader discarded by Anrakyr as an additional cost required to play that Shrieking Exarch. If Anrakyr shows up at planet number 1, that'll be another blue icon in his victory display, or he may alternatively show up at planet number 2 to try to set himself up for a victory condition. So it's either going to be Anrakyr might try to steamroll the first planet or set himself up at planet number 2 or 3. But Kith drops a Rogue Trader at planet number 5 opposite a copy of Void Pirate. Planet number 5 is Farron, the Route, a planet. It's also worth 2 resources, and those resources are going to be just of paramount importance for Kith to get because she's got those Klavex War Leaders, and Eigensheep has not been so fortunate as to draw copies of Backlash. Rogue Trader was played and then rescinded okay. So it was played, and I'm not sure that Eigen actually paid for it. So he played it for 1, and then moves. Okay, so he played the Rogue Trader for 1, then he increased his resources, and then he moved the Rogue Trader to the table. So I do not want to interfere with the game, but both of our players have passed. I'm not sure if I should say check resources or not, but hopefully that 1 additional resource ends up getting caught by Asbo and does not alter the outcome of this game. Both of our players have passed. Yeah, so that's Rogue Trader played for 1, Rogue Trader moved to hand, you get back the resources, and then you played the Rogue Trader. So I am at a bit of a crossroads for if I should call that out or not, but I guess as my job is commentator and not to interfere with this match, I'm not going to do so. So anyways, both of our players are picking where they would like to send their warlords. We are going to be picking that presently. So why don't I just pause and see what our players decide. You know, I'm actually going to interfere with this game. I just want to make sure that it that the integrity is maintained. So I'm going to see Rogue Trader was not paid for, ? Played, +1 resource, then moved to table, ? So I'm going to allow our players to correct that, and then we can advance. So my sincerest apologies for interfering with this match, but I didn't want, I just don't want anything to alter the outcome of this game. So anyways, the Eigensheep calls out, sorry, thanks, again, sorry, I feel like an ass, but, you know. Anyways, I will say sorry, anyhow, please proceed. So I just want to make sure that that was caught, just because 1 resource, when there's so much on the line, is going to potentially have made an incredible difference. For example, the Shrieking Exarchs, as they're going to result in drawing cards, having resources that you do not deserve, would have made a giant difference. But anyways, both of our players are currently deciding where they want to send their respective warlords. Hopefully no one minds my interfering with this match too much, but yeah, that just seems like it could have been slightly extraordinarily shitty. So, as opposed to allowing something suspicious happen, I suppose I will use my authority as YouTube pseudo-celebrity to interfere, and now let's see what our players decide. Both of them have picked where exactly they want to send their warlords respectively, and I haven't really had a moment to think about it, but let's see what our players decide on. Eigen Sheep is going to be going to planet number 5, and Kith is going to be going to planet number 3. So Anrakyr is going to drop off his Shrieking Exarch all the way at the end of the table, but that's going to be an opportunity for Anrakyr to kill the Rogue Trader, and then that Rogue Trader is maybe going to result in the Shrieking Exarch drawing Anrakyr a card and maybe killing off one of these Chimera tokens. Kith shows up at 3, so it's only going to be these Bloodied Reavers which are going to get killed by the Shrieking Exarch. So the Exarch will handily kill the Bloodied Reavers, although maybe Kith is going to be able to get enough resources to do a Clavex Warleader thing. Let's kind of see what happens here. So Anrakyr ended up winning a total of 1 card, 2 resources at 5. Anrakyr won a card and a resource at 1. And Kith ended up getting a card and a resource at 3, and that is it. So Kith has just got a couple of copies of Pact of the Homunculi. She does not have enough for Clavex Warleader, and now it's looking like if Anrakyr can manage to do this correctly, he may be able to win the game the following round at planet number 2, because Kith doesn't really have enough to contest him anywhere. Like, Kith is kind of choked for resources, and Kith's got Venomous Fiends, Clavex Warleaders, Pact of the Homunculi, which are expensive. It's just not quite enough. Kith does manage to wound the Shrieking Exarch here, which means it's going to be able to be destroyed by Clavex Warleader at a later date, but that may not end up being the case if Egan draws a copy of Backlash. The Shrieking Exarch destroys the Bloodied Reavers after a point of damage has been... Okay, so the Shrieking Exarch takes 2, they kill the Bloodied Reavers, that's going to be a card drawn for Anrakyr, and he gets to pick an enemy unit, a Chimera token at 3, to take a point of damage. The first planet is won by Anrakyr, that's going to be added to his victory display, so that is going to be 1 red, 1 green, and 2 blue for Anrakyr. So if Anrakyr manages to win a battle at planet number 1, then that is going to be the game right there. The only trick here is, I guess what we're going to have to see is we're going to have to see, for the combat at this planet, we'll see the Void Pirate swing for 0, the Rogue Trader swings for 0, Anrakyr kills the Rogue Trader, into the combat round happens, Shrieking Exarch retreats, and then both copies of Shrieking Exarch are going to be able to be deposited at planet number 1 the following round. Kith is going to use Karrnath to trigger Farron, but what... Okay, Kith decides to route the Void Pirate, which is very smart. At least I know. Farron. So what actually happened with Karrnath? Was there a resource swap? Okay, yeah, Eigen Sheep and Asbo. So what maybe should have happened is if you'd have routed this Void Pirate as opposed to... Like, stealing resources is a good idea, but if you'd have routed the Void Pirate, then it would have been... Well, it wouldn't have mattered, actually, so never mind. What am I thinking? Farron is triggered by Anrakyr, so... Okay, the way that this works, Anrakyr wins the battle. but before that happened, we came to the end of a combat round. The Shrieking Exarch had an opportunity to retreat. Theron is activated. It removes the Kith's Chimera Masters from planet number 3, and that's going to afford Anrakyr the opportunity to basically force another army unit to go to planet number 1, where Kith is going to go, and it's going to be easily dispatched by these Shrieking Exarchs, potentially, and then we will see the Void Pirates set up to win at this planet. So what's really unfortunate for poor Eigensheep is he's yet to draw a copy of Backlash, but he does have a copy of Recycle, and he's going to be able to draw at least a card or two, so he had better hope to high hell to get a copy of Backlash to use in case Klavex Warleader annihilates one of his Shrieking Exarchs. I think that this game is potentially in the bag for Anrakyr if he can manage to come across one of those, but there's still going to be plenty of plays going out there, and let's see what exactly happens. We see a Warlock Destructor positioned at planet number 1, which is going to be a formidable 3/4. We've got Pyrian War Scythe, which means that that's a 3 shield value card for Anrakyr, and the most important thing is Anrakyr's got initiative. If he manages to kill a single enemy army unit with a Warlock Destructor, it's army unit. If it swings and Kith doesn't have any 2 shield value cards, if it swings and kills this Chimera Master, then that's going to be both of these proccing, and it's going to be a dead Chimera token and a wounded something else, or a double, potentially killed Chimera. We've got a Rogue Trader at planet number 3 to try to kind of block the income of Anrakyr, but I guess Anrakyr has a copy of Promotion to make sure that he gets those resources to play whatever events these Shrieking Exarchs might allow him to acquire. So we've yet to see that recycle, but I can only imagine we'll be seeing that shortly. We've got a copy of Decaying Warrior Squad, which may as well already be in the discard pile. I'm sure that's going to be recycle fodder, as will be this STC fragment, a redundant copy there. Kith, and this is where things get interesting. Kith has currently got 6 resources, but she's only got so much crap to play with it. A copy of Possessed is likely going to be able to kill off a Shrieking Exarch, but she's got to be thinking very carefully about how many resources she's got coming in. At the moment, she's only looking to be able to pull in 1 resource, so Kith drops out STC Fragment. She's now at 5, but she could do like a Venomous Fiend at 2, and if she does that, that'll cost 3, it'll put her at 2. She could do an Incubus Warrior, or we could see a Possessed, so she's got quite a lot of options. For Egan, we're going to be seeing Recycle, so he's discarded the STC Fragment, the Decaying Warrior Squad. Now he's going to draw 3 cards. I'm sure he is hoping and praying for a copy of Backlash, and let's see what he draws. He gets 2 copies of Backlash. Holy shit. So things are now going to be looking extraordinarily rough for Kith. If she saves enough resources to play a Klavex Warleader, then not only is that destroy a target damaged army unit going to be cancelled, but the Warleader itself is going to be destroyed, and Kith cannot afford to piss away that many resources. So I think we may as well call GG right here, but certainly let's see this game unwind. This ended up being a hell of a match, and if Anrakyr wins this one, then that's going to be a Necrons player advancing to the finals of the Black Crusade. And I believe that he would be playing against an Orc, which is presumably Nosdrag. So Anrakyr versus Nosdrag is certainly a far cry from the Kith versus Eldorath that Warmaster Sam Mann and I were a bit afraid that it may be. But a couple of copies of Backlash, this 3 shield Pyrian War Scythe, a copy of Promotion, the 2 Shrieking Exarchs. That could certainly spell disaster for poor Dark Eldar player Asbo 1980. So, Kith is thinking STC Fragment exhausts. What is going to be put into play? It is the Venomous Fiend. Note that that is yet another backlash target, but it's actually going to be positioned at Planet 3. So what's interesting about this is... And promotion, yep, promotion is going to potentially ruin that unless we see... Like, here's what we see. It's promotion for 0 against the Venomous Fiend, which was modified 3. But that doesn't gain Kith any resources whatsoever. It's kind of a waste because this is an elite. Move it from a blue planet to any other planet. So the Venomous Fiend, well, I guess it could actually mobile to 2, and then it could be corrupted, teleportariumed to 1. But if the Fiend hits one of these units, well, if it hits one of these elites, that's backlash on the Fiend, and if that Fiend were to have gotten enough resources for Kith to be able to use a Clavex War Leader, that's another instance of backlash absolutely ruining Kith's day. So I feel like this is likely going to be an Anrakyr victory. It is going to be a hell of a final round here. The Kinsman, positioned at planet number 1, is going to be a 2/2 with a command icon for the low cost of 1. The Warlock Destructor is going to be able to swing first, set up these Shrieking Exarchs. That's going to be a couple of cards drawn for Anrakyr. It's going to be like 2 points of damage dealt to a Chimera token or whatever. So things are looking pretty grim for our poor Packmaster, but what do we see? Incubus Warrior is going to be at planet number 3. So the Incubus Warrior is going to result in Kith getting 3 resources, and Kith is also going to get a final resource from planet number 2. That is going to be enough for a Clavex War Leader, but Kith has got to be banking on hoping and praying that the enemy is not going to have an adequate number of is not going to have a backlash in hand. But of course, you and I, dear viewers, know that that is the case, that there is a backlash. Kith is going to go to planet number 1. I can only imagine Anrakyr is also going to be going to planet number 1, and things are about to go all the way bad for poor Packmaster Kith. I would imagine we're going to be seeing a double backlash, plus the Warlock Destructor, resulting in a dead Kith's Chimera Masters, and that's going to be a lot of damage going out to Packmaster Kith. She's only got 2 1-shield value cards, and maybe we're finally seeing the end of the reign of the Dark Eldar. So Kith is going to end up getting 1, 2 cards and 2 resources. I suppose for her sake, she'd better hope for a large number of shields. Or no, I'm sorry, that is Anrakyr gets 2 cards, 2 resources. Kith actually gets 1 card and 4 resources. So both of our players indicate that they're good. We get 2 woefully irrelevant Lichguard Sentinel for Anrakyr, but he's going to be able to draw a few additional cards shortly. Poor Kith draws a copy of Rogue Trader, and now let's see if I can predict the end of this match again before it happens. Venomous Fiend is going to mobile to 2. It's going to be corrupted, teleportariumed from 2 to 1. If it attempts to damage one of these Shrieking Exarchs, then it is going to be backlashed, and backlash reads... destroy the army unit, and these read, after an army unit is destroyed, then they ping. So it could be a ping of the Chimera tokens or the Chimera Masters. If the Chimera Masters die, then that's going to be another couple of pings done by the Shrieking Exarchs. So things are about to go all the way bad. I think that Kith is an absolutely spectacular player, but it looks like our poor DE individual is about to get obliterated. But let us see how things unwind. Initiative is in the possession of Anrakyr the Traveler. Are we going to be seeing the Warlock Destructor take the initial swing? The Chimera Masters are going to be dead. The Warlock Destructor actually does the conservative thing and goes for the guaranteed kill of the Chimera token. but that is not going to trigger the Shrieking Exarchs. They only proc off of destroyed army units. Hopefully Eigensheep is well aware of that fact, so I need not interfere with this match once again, and I'm glad that it looks like he's definitely favored to win at the moment, just because I feel bad for pointing out the resource discrepancy earlier, even though it's likely not going to play into the outcome of this match here. So Aegon indicates that he's done. Are we going to be seeing Kith attack? Are we going to be seeing the Venomous Fiend moved? Are we going to be seeing Klavek's Warleader used? 7 cards in Eigensheep's hand. Packmaster Kith has to know that things are not looking good for her at all. 2 blue technology icons in the possession of Anrakyr, so let's go ahead and see it. Kith exhausts. She is going to be attacking something, but my question is what? Kith is practically all out of options. If Klavek's Warleader were to successfully resolve, things would be looking radically differently. Like, let's say if Backlash wasn't a thing and there was no shielding, we could see the Venomous Fiend show up, 2 points of damage to the Shrieking Exarch, kill it. Klavek's Warleader used to kill the other Shrieking Exarch after the Venomous Fiend maybe takes a swing and kills the Kinsman. But unfortunately, that is just not going to be the case. The same Han Kinsman here takes a swing of 2 at the Kith's Chimera Masters. Will we see a shield to preserve that unit or not? It's only going to be delaying the inevitable, but we do see a copy of Pact of the Homunculi. The instant that the Shrieking Exarchs are ready, then things are looking extraordinarily grim for Kith. All these units, save Anrakyr, are now exhausted. It's going to be Kith's combat turn. If she passes, then okay, that's going to be Klavek's Warleader, and that is Backlash. The Warleader is destroyed, and that means that, yep, we see those resources on Shrieking Exarch. That's going to be reaction. The Chimera Masters are going to be dealt a point of damage. They are going to be killed, and that is going to be an additional trigger for each of these units, and that's going to be 3 points of damage direct to Packmaster Kith. If we see a second copy of Backlash kill the Venomous Fiend, then that could be 5 out of Kith's 6 HP dealt directly through Shrieking Exarch triggers. So it looks like all those effects have been resolved on, okay, I guess maybe did I miss? Maybe I missed an effect. I wasn't thinking that Kith should have that much damage on her, but perhaps Asbo is frustrated and is just accepting the inevitable. But Anrakyr takes a swing. Packmaster Kith is going to be bloodied. Eigensheep, yep, calls out done. Asbo does not bother to use the Corrupted Teleportarium because that would have been another Backlash right there. So a commenter asks if his mom is watching him. So there you go, commenter Sikaka, there's your shout out. But that is going to be the game right there. GG, congratulations to the Eigensheep for winning this one. Congratulations to Anrakyr for a remarkably well-played game. He manages to reign triumphant over the predominant sector, winning time and time again. Packmaster Kith, Asbo 1980, is removed from the Black Crusade. Your final match is going to be Athael versus the Eigensheep. Unless I'm gravely mistaken, it's looking to be Nazdrag versus Anrakyr, unless either of these players change which Warlord they end up picking. So a very well-played game by both of these players. Thank you very much to each of them for allowing me the opportunity to record this match and publish it to YouTube. Hopefully you, the viewer, enjoyed this one. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Contact me on any form of social media you would like, Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like to make a small donation or contribution to help continue my coverage of Conquest LCG post-cancellation, then go ahead and chip $1 or $2 on a strictly monthly basis to my Patreon. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and once again, be sure to check back in again soon for more Conquest LCG content to come, and I will see you at the Black Crusade League Finals.